Hi, everybody. We're trying something. Oh, we're using. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hey, it's Cindy and Josh here. We are actually on a little trip for our anniversary. Our anniversary is at the end of this month,
Is it
but
crooked or just me?
it's crooked. Yeah, we're excellent at this. Anyway, we're coming to you live from a little cabin that we got, and we're going to talk today about how finances affect our marriage.
Yeah. So basically, pillar
Whew.
number three in our discussion, part three.
Yeah,
Big deal, right?
this
Because,
is.
there's two things that couples fight about. That's money and intimacy, which
Mhm.
is later. So,
Yeah. Yes. And this topic, I think, is kind of like communication. I feel like we could talk for a really, really long time about it. But today we're going to really specifically talk about.
uh, money and marriage, right? There's different aspects of money and finances, whether individually, um, retirement, so forth. But we're talking about how it affects our marriage,
How it
it
functions.
how it affects our and functions in our
Hmm.
relationship. And I think one of the biggest things that um, need to we want to stress is the fact that finances affects both, and when you come into a marriage, Scripture tells us that the two become one flesh, and that means finances too. That means money. Um, you know, props to those couples out there that have separate bank accounts and make that work. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how that's sustainable. If you want to chime in the comments and share how you've been able to make that work. But
Yeah.
for us, right away, first thing we did when we got married is we opened up a
Hmm.
joint account and all of our money began to come together.
Hmm.
And some people might feel like, when two people are in control of the finances and looking at the finances, that maybe that now you're on a leash, right? That you're being, controlled by someone else and decision making on what you want. And unfortunately, hopefully that's not the case. But we have to remove any selfish feelings that we have and understand that every decision that I make is going to now affect my family.
Right.
And one of the things else we did early on in our marriage when it came to finances is we made the decision that if any one of us needs to spend more than $100, that we would talk to one another
Hmm.
first before we made that purchase.
Yeah.
And again, it's not to limit or leash someone. It's part of that communication that we
Right.
talked
I
about
was
the
going to
last
go
time.
back to that. I was like, really, I think it comes down to more communication, but it's more defined. You have to have communication about your finances. And we're not coming at it from like, how much you have affects your marriage. We're coming at it from how you communicate about finances affects your marriage. And so we joked about a few weeks ago when he was overseas or you were in Washington and I was San Diego, he spent like some, it was like $600, $900 or something on something for your Bronco.
Yes,
Yeah. And I was so upset. I was livid. And mostly it was, I think, because of the communication aspect of it.
yes.
Because really, I don't.
Well, I did say, well, because I was on deployment, and when you're on deployment, you can set aside a certain stipend to come out of your paycheck to go to the ATM on the naval ship, and so I had done that. I set
Mm,
that aside, and I didn't spend very much, and it still kept accumulating. So in my mind, it was my money because that was what was set
yes.
aside for
I
me for
remember it now.
deployment. And at the end of
Hmm.
deployment, I didn't have any. I had $600-700 left
Yeah.
over, and in my mind, that was my money,
Yeah.
and so I freely spent it. And of course, just as
Yeah.
she said, it was upset, and it was a mistake on my part because I had developed that mindset. When in reality, again, the two become one. We're together in this. Everything that we do affects one another, affects our children,
Yeah.
and the same goes for today. We ask to communicate with one another if we want to spend money because, hey, maybe I forgot because Josh forgets things. That mortgage is coming out this month, and if I spend that
The mortgage
100,
comes out every month.
you know what I mean.
Didn't know if you were
If mortgage
confused
comes
or.
out this week,
Sorry.
yeah, and I spend that $120 on whatever, I've just overdrawn our account because 2 days
Right.
from now it comes
Right.
out and
Well, and so we do try. We're not always our best, but we
mm,
try to have something called mad money. So each of us have a certain amount of money
yes,
each month, and it's just $100 if you're curious. and we can save it or we can spend it on whatever we want. So if he wants to eat Taco Bell every day, I'm like, go ahead, that's your money. You get to spend it however
Right.
you want. And so it also kind of releases us from the pressure of like, well, one, always telling each other what we spend our
Yeah.
money on. We all
Or
find
feeling guilty about it.
feeling
Like, oh, I
guilty.
stopped for a coffee this morning,
Yeah,
you know. But yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it's really it's good for us. And then like I can save up for something and I don't feel like, I'm
you're
taking
taking away from the
away.
family, right?
Right. I'm
Yes.
taking away
Yeah.
from the family. And it all really comes down to us being conscientious of how the things what we spend our money on affects
What we
each
tell,
other
yeah,
and how it affects our
yeah,
children, our family,
yes,
because what we spend really affects everybody.
yeah. And we've talked about it before in some of our previous videos that we have a weekly family executive
Mm-hmm.
committee that we get down, and one of the things that we discuss is our budget,
Mm-hmm.
because we need to always be telling our money where to go, not where telling our money telling us what we can and can't do.
Yeah.
And so us communicating each week, going over the budget together, we're well aware of what page we're on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we skip that, and the next thing I know, I'm getting 20 Amazon boxes on my front steps, and I'm like, what is this stuff?
Who would do such a thing?
So,
Which I do anyway.
yeah.
We're going to be totally honest
But at
here.
least I know
We
what it
spend
is.
money without each other knowing. And so there
Yeah.
are times where we look at the budget and the next week I'm like, "Oh, I might have accidentally spent a little bit too much on some books."
Yeah.
Oops. And like, but that is where the meetings and communication comes in. He'd be like, "Well, did you really need all that? Or can we budget for this?" Or at one point, we were so bad about returning library books that I always had overdue fines at the library. And so we actually added it into the budget that I had $25 every month for overdue library books.
Yes.
But I wouldn't have like really paid attention to that if he didn't sit down and be like, what's happening here? I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I'm really bad about turning in books. So it's really important to sit down every week and go over those things,
Yeah.
maybe even review your bank statements to see what you've been spending money
Yes.
on and
Yeah.
be very open.
Right.
We're kind of each other's accountability partners,
Yeah.
but we're both really bad at it.
Yes.
It's taken
Well,
us
and
a really long time
yes,
to get to where we are.
and one of our future subjects that we're talking about for our marriage is goal setting, and that's made a huge difference for us.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you start setting goals, uh, well, you need money to make those goals happen, and so that's helped a lot in our finances too. Is making sure that we're on the same page for goals, and then we start saying, oh well, if we want to make this happen, this is how it's going to happen, and
Yeah.
I need to stop spending, $5 on coffee every day.
Yeah.
Just take my pods to work and
Yeah.
some K cups or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to reiterate,
Yeah.
our weekly meetings are important to us.
Yeah.
And I think that every family should try to do them, even if it's just for 5 minutes. So if you're like,
There's a deer over there.
there's a deer.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, sorry. Distracted. Squirrel.
There's squirrels here too.
Anyway, so I feel like every couple should do this, even if it's for a couple minutes and maybe you could work up to something longer because it's kind of a new concept. But sitting down with each other once a week and maybe just go over the schedule for that week, or go over the budget for that week.
Yeah. Since it's starting to get long, there's one last point I want to make, and that is that money comes and goes. We've been on this earth for 37, 38, 39.
29?
Yeah, years now. And the one thing that you can guarantee is money comes and goes. I mean, it comes and goes. And so it should never be something that wedges its way between you and the one that you're spending the rest of your life with. And that's important, that you never let money destroy your marriage. Never let money destroy the image of your spouse. Don't let it be that. It's money's not evil, right? It's the love of money that is the root of all evil, that James tells us.
Money is a tool.
Money's immoral. You
Mm-hmm.
can use it for good, you can use it bad. We can't let it, the love of it, all those things, drive a wedge in between us. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And we're using it as a tool.
Yeah. And we're using it right now because we're in a great, cool Airbnb cabin because we saved and budgeted it, and we can do it once a year.
I know. It's awesome. So, yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in and have a great weekend, and we'll see you later.